1386. A pig stands trial for murder in medieval France, dressed in human clothes, facing a real judge and witnesses before being publicly hanged. In 1474, a rooster burns alive for laying a devil's egg that could spawn a deadly basilisk. But what happens when rats hire a lawyer to fight back? Back in 1386, something happened in a small town called Falaise in France that would seem totally crazy to us today. A pig was put on trial for murder. Not just any trial, but a real court trial with a judge, witnesses, and everything. Here's what happened. A mother pig hurt a young child so badly that the child died, but instead of just getting rid of the pig like we might do today, the people back then treated this like a serious crime. First, they arrested the pig. Yes, you heard that right. They put the pig in jail just like they would do to a person who committed a crime. Then they brought the pig to court to face charges of killing someone. But it gets even stranger. They dressed the pig up in men's clothes and made it stand in front of a judge in the town square. People came to watch, just like they would for any important trial. Witnesses told their stories. The judge listened to all the evidence. After hearing everything, the judge said the pig was guilty. The punishment was terrible. First, they would hurt the pig, then they would hang it until it died. Now you might be wondering, why would people do something so weird? Well, back in those days, people thought about animals very differently than we do now. The people in medieval times believed that when an animal did something violent, it was breaking God's rules. They thought the whole world had to follow certain laws to keep everything in balance. Even though some smart people back then said animals couldn't really choose between right and wrong, most folks believed that violent animals were a threat to the way things should be. When the pig killed the child, people saw it as more than just an accident. They thought it messed up the spiritual balance of their whole community. The only way to fix this was to punish the pig publicly so everyone could see that justice was done. The execution wasn't just about punishing the pig, it was about showing the family of the dead child and everyone else in town that their leaders took this seriously. The town's official executioner carried out the punishment, and according to someone who wrote about it back then, the town square was packed with people watching. This case is one of the best recorded examples of animal trials in medieval Europe. Historians have been studying it for hundreds of years. The fact that they kept such detailed records, including how much they spent on the pig's clothes and paying the executioner, shows just how seriously they took these trials. What seems absolutely ridiculous to us today was completely normal and important to people in the 1300s. To them, the pig had committed a deadly crime, and the courts had to respond with the full force of medieval justice. Now let me tell you about another bizarre animal trial that happened about 100 years later. In 1474, in the Swiss city of Basel, a rooster was put on trial for something that sounds impossible. The crime? Laying an egg. Back then, people believed that if a rooster laid an egg, it could only happen with help from the devil himself. They thought these devil-influenced eggs could hatch into a basilisk. A basilisk was supposed to be a deadly snake-like creature that could kill you just by looking at you or breathing on you. In a world where everyone was deeply religious and scared of evil forces, this wasn't just weird, it was terrifying. When someone discovered that a rooster had laid an egg, the local authorities didn't waste any time. They grabbed the rooster and brought it to court. The bird was officially charged with the unnatural crime of laying an egg and accused of working with Satan. The court included both local judges and church officials. This showed that both the government and the church thought this was a very serious matter. Nobody tried to defend the rooster. Nobody argued that maybe this was just a strange natural thing that sometimes happens. The verdict came quickly. The rooster was found guilty and sentenced to be burned alive in public. They carried out this punishment right in the town square where everyone could watch. They also destroyed the egg at the same time. The people who wrote about this event didn't treat it like it was strange or funny. To them, this was a necessary step to protect their community from spiritual danger. This trial shows us how law, religion, and superstition were all mixed together in medieval times. People believed that allowing such a creature to live would risk making God angry with their whole town. In their world, where they believed in miracles and curses as part of everyday life, even a rooster could become a vessel for evil forces and had to be punished. Medieval courts also prosecuted other large animals, especially bulls, when they caused human deaths or injuries. We have court records from the 1200s through the 1500s that mention formal trials of bulls and oxen, particularly in France, Belgium, and parts of Germany. These cases usually happened when an animal escaped from its owner and killed or seriously hurt someone by goring or trampling them. When this happened, local authorities would treat the animal like a criminal. Bulls were sometimes put in jail before their trial, chained up or locked in special secure buildings. When they were found guilty based on witness testimony or evidence from the incident, they received sentences that weren't just about removing a dangerous animal. These punishments were meant to show that justice had been served. Some records suggest that even these huge animals were sentenced to hang, but since it would be nearly impossible to actually hang a full-grown bull, they probably used the word hanging symbolically. They might have strangled the animal or used ropes in a way that looked like a human execution. This reflects an important idea in medieval justice. The punishment had to be public, formal, and send a clear moral message. When they deliberately executed a bull that had killed a person, it helped restore spiritual and legal order in the community, just like executing a human criminal would. Justice wasn't just about preventing future crimes. It was about removing the offense from the community entirely. But perhaps the most amazing animal trial of all happened in 1522 in the French town of Autun. This time, the defendants were rats, and they actually got a lawyer to defend them. The charge against the rats was destroying the town's barley crops. The town authorities, working under church law, officially summoned the rats to appear in court. A court official called a summoner had to publicly announce that the rats were required to show up for their trial. When the rats didn't appear in court, big surprise there, the judge was ready to go ahead and sentence them anyway. But then something unprecedented happened. A well-known lawyer named Bartholomew Chassenet stepped forward to defend the rats. Chassenet wasn't just any lawyer. He later became an important judge in a major French court. Instead of laughing at this case, he took it completely seriously and used real legal procedures to defend his rodent clients. First, Chassenet argued that the summons hadn't been properly delivered throughout the entire area where the rats lived. Then he made an even more clever argument. He claimed that the rats couldn't come to court because they were afraid of being killed by cats along the way. This wasn't a joke. He was using real legal logic that courts had to consider. The judge couldn't argue with Chassenet's legal reasoning, so he had to postpone the trial. Eventually, the case was dropped entirely. This trial became famous in legal history and is still studied today. Chassenet wasn't making fun of the system. He was showing how church law required that even animals accused of crimes had to receive proper legal treatment. He later wrote about these arguments in a legal manual published in 1531. His defense showed how medieval law required very specific rituals and procedures. Even when the defendants were rats, the courts had to follow all the rules to maintain what they saw as divine order. These medieval animal trials remind us that justice once reached far beyond just humans. These court cases show us how far societies will go to defend what they believe is the proper order of the universe. They reveal both religious fears and legal strictness that seem strange to us now. These trials still echo today whenever we debate who is responsible for what rights different beings should have, and how far human authority should reach. The seriousness of these medieval judgments warns us that law, culture, and beliefs are never fixed but change as our understanding grows. What do you think? What things we do today might future generations look at and think are just as strange as putting pigs and roosters on trial?